We'll call it to order, please. Everyone rise, please.
Father, we just thank you for this day again. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve our county and our citizens. Father, we pray right now for Shane and his family. Pray for their healing as they have the virus. And Father, we pray for our nation and our world as we go through this time that people will look to you for guidance in everything they do and say. And Father, we know that you're still in control. Be with our men and women. It's all over the world and at home fighting for our freedom and their families. Just keep them from harm's way. Be with this meeting that we might do the things that's right for Henry County and our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a regular meeting of the Henry County Board of County Commissioners being held on Tuesday, August 11th, 2020 in the City Commission Chambers in Clewiston, Florida. In attendance are Chairman Mitchell Wills, Vice Chair Emma Byrd, Commissioner Darrell Harris, Commissioners Michael Swindle, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Mark Lapp, Ad Interim Clerk Kimberly Barano.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we get started, if you're watching the meeting and care to voice your opinion on anything tonight or have a comment you'd like to make, you'll need to dial in at 877-853-5257. Your access code will be 955-2625-7584#. So as we get started, nothing under biz tonight. First thing is a consent.
Move to accept.
Second. Got a motion by Commissioner Herrick and a second by Commissioner Swindle. Is there any discussion on this? Anyone from the phone? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Awards and appearances, is Ray Robinson's queued up, or?
I don't see him.
They should be on the phone.
I think so.
Yep, we're on the call. Are we unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, Jessica Love and Kurt Pepper, Gray Robinson. First, thank you all so much for the opportunity to provide a legislative update. We do regret that we are unable to do so in person, but hopefully we will get to see you all in person very soon. Just to provide a general overview of the 2020 legislative session, this was the fourth consecutive year that the legislature has gone into overtime to pass their constitutionally mandated budget. It went almost about a week later than scheduled this year, so they adjourned sine die on March 19th. We saw 3,578 bills filed this year, and of those, only 210 actually passed. So that's basically representative of less than 6% of all bills filed. Most of those have been transmitted to the governor. However, there are still 26 that are waiting to be sent to him for action. There were a couple of issues that definitely dominated this year. Raising teacher pay was a major priority of Governor DeSantis. He was able to secure $500 million in the budget for that issue. Another thing that happened this year was, for the first time in recent memory, the Affordable Housing Trust funds did not get swept. They were fully funded at $370 million. A lot of discussion around allowing college athletes to earn compensation. There was a 3% pay raise granted for state employees. Healthcare reform, which has kind of been a perennial issue of late, was also definitely on the table, and the legislature managed to pass an expanded scope of practice for nurses in Florida. Water quality issues, Florida, always a major priority. $690 million was funded for that this year. The budget itself was the largest budget on record at $92.3 billion. That is, of course, before vetoes. That was about $2 billion more than the previous year's budget. Again, Governor DeSantis did wield a pretty heavy veto pen this year. He vetoed more than $1 billion in projects. And while I'll get to the ones that are Henry specific, I did want to mention that included in those vetoes was the Florida Drought Growth Grant Fund. The legislature did finally settle on $20 million for that program. However, that was on the veto list. As I'm sure you all recall, we came down last summer to meet with you guys and discuss what legislative priorities we wanted to pursue for 2020. Obviously, the force main funding was a major priority. As you all know, you had $600,000 that you received in 2015-16 fiscal year. We were able to secure $1 million last year for the project, and thankfully, we were able to secure another $1 million this year, which we're very, very proud of. We know how critical this project is to the county. And just for a little perspective, there were 169 water projects that made it into the final version of the budget. And 114 of those ended up getting vetoed. So we were one of a bare little over 32% that survived the veto pen. We also did work with Glades County to help promote their project that they were pursuing on the E911 facility. And that project did actually end up receiving full funding in the budget. Unfortunately, it was one of the projects that got vetoed. We also did pursue a funding request for the public safety facility hardening. We put in a request for $1 million. We were able to get the bill filed. We were able to get the bill heard in committee, which are the two first crucial steps for it to even be allowed to be considered in the budget. But ultimately, that project did not come through in the final product. And I know Kirk's going to talk a little bit about the executive level and some other things, but we both wanted to extend our sincere thanks to the commissioners and staff that came to Tallahassee and did all these legislative visits. I know we kept you very busy with constant meetings, but I mean, some of those, like the Appropriations Committee chairs and the policy directors and the Governor's Office of Policy and Budget, these meetings were all really productive and helpful to the legislative agenda that we were advocating for. So your efforts really do make an impact, and we thank you for that very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, and guys, this is Kirk Pepper. Thank you guys so much for the time. And Jessica, summed up, I think, a big portion of the activity from this past session. And, what I was going to sort of touch on was where the work that we've done with the executive branch. Specifically, we've seen some really good wins in the last year in terms of executive level grants. And when we came down and spoke with the commission, a year and a few months ago, one of the things that we talked about focusing on was sort of extra appropriation outside of the appropriation process funding through some of these executive branch programs. And I think that you guys have probably leveraged that about as well as any county in the state in terms of, the amount of awards you've gotten per capita and success rate. So you guys, received a basically $4.3 million grant from the Department of Economic Opportunity in the Rebuild Florida Infrastructure Repair Program for the Four Corners system. And you also then turned around and got a almost $1.5 million grant under the Rebuild Florida Workforce Recovery Training Program. And then, of course, I know just here recently, another $40,000 from community planning and technical assistance grant to focus on the Everglades land use study. So, the reason that I bring that up is, and I think it's so important is, we've been very fortunate in the support that you guys have given us and the support that the legislature has given us in the last couple of years to see, like Jessica said, to see two separate $1 million appropriations funded and not vetoed when the vast majority of things have been vetoed. But when you look at these executive level grants, you guys are just shy of $8 million in new money that has come in the last little while, last year and a little bit plus. I will say that as we look forward, the CARES Act funding and the next iteration of what the CARES Act is going to be, that is, will have a different name and is being negotiated right now, and how those dollars come down. We've been working, obviously really closely with our DC team. We've also been working pretty aggressively with the Governor's Office of Policy and Budget, as well as with our partners and your partners with the Association of Counties, on getting that money freed up and getting it down to you as quickly as we can. And then I think the last piece that is, just makes sense to kind of bring up in work that we've done of late is in and around the Everglades Airport. And I think the commissioners, and I know Jennifer can remember working with the Department of Transportation to get some really important letters done that the federal government needed, that was a little outside of the normal, sort of just everyday course of business for the department, and being able to work that process through and get that done so that you guys could, continue forward with this, vital economic development project was, something that we were really proud of. Given that, I think maybe I'll kind of stop now and maybe let's open things up for questions, and then I think we can do just a very, very brief what things are going to, what we expect things to look like next session in the next 6 months. But we'll stop maybe for any questions.
Yes, sir. Hey, Kurt, Jessica, this is Carson. How are you? Thank y'all so much, and appreciate all your effort. I've been elected since 2008, and I've paid attention to the process for Hendry County extremely since 2006, actually 05, 06. But long story long, I think this was far and away the most successful year we've had from a standpoint of just gross dollars and being awarded. And there's no doubt that that's a direct correlation to the team that you all have and you've assigned to us. And so thank you so much. And the Four Corners project, I think that project may just be a little bit younger than I am in its existence. And so hopefully in the next 730 days, we're actually going to see that get put to bed. A really strong thank you. I do want to ask you all to make sure that your team doubles down on our economic development office and reaching out with them and their staff of one, but a very strong executive board, and making sure that we're able to keep that relationship moving forward. And I think that it would be good for you all to have a call in to them as well, to let them understand in great detail, so they're not hearing it just from a commissioner or from hearsay of what our success was like in Tallahassee last year, and how that actually rolls down to all of the coffers. With that being said, I will hush. I had great plans for this session coming up until COVID hit. And when I say I mean I was hoping for Hendry County to have another great year, but I just can't imagine what it's going to dry up and look like. And I'm interested to know if you all think that there will be a session. Will humans be able to walk the halls? And what are y'all hearing from a short list perspective that it's going to look like? So I'm interested to hear what that report's going to sound.
Yeah, so this is Jessica. So regarding the 2021 session, it's kind of like everything else surrounding this pandemic, is that there are just a lot of unknowns. We don't exactly know what committee meetings or floor sessions are going to look like if, the coronavirus is still an issue and we have to do social distancing. We don't know if that's going to be like a mix of virtual and in person. I know as of right now, the Capitol is still closed to the general public. Unless you work there, you're really not permitted in the building. I do still fully anticipate, and Kurt, correct me if you're wrong, that committee weeks will still start and begin as scheduled in January and February. The session start date, March 2nd, is supposed to end at April 30th if they, of course, don't extend again. I do know that they will come together for an organizational session in November following the elections, as they do each time. We obviously will have new leadership at the helm, with Senator Wilton Simpson taking over as Senate President and Representative Chris Sprouse taking over as the House Speaker. I know you yourselves will have a new delegation member in the House. That remains to be determined, but I would expect that announcements of committee structure and the chairs and the membership of those will probably be announced sometime in December. But obviously, COVID is still going to be an issue. And I think you're right. I think that it is going to absolutely dominate both appropriations and policy legislation that is going to be filed next year. So, I mean, as Kurt mentioned earlier, we're still waiting to see what a federal package might look like and what impact that may have. I mean, personally speaking, I think the state's done a great job of intelligently using that funding, and DeSantis seems confident that we're good for our current fiscal year, but it's just kind of going to be one of those, what does that package look like? How can we use that? And what impacts will that have on the trickle-down effect?
Yeah, I think that a couple of observations, that I would add to that is, our organizational session is in the Constitution required to be 2 weeks after the election in November. It's not the most convenient time, and we've seen that be a little frustrating in the past. But yeah, I mean, we're not really sure how that's going to go. I do think that based on the conversations that we've had up here, and Jessica's had these as well. I think that the folks in the sort of upper levels of the executive branch leadership feel like things are kind of finally moving back in the right direction as it relates to coronavirus. And there's some counties that are having a hard time and some counties that are doing really well. But I think that based on where things looked like and where things were 4 weeks ago and where they are now, they're really hoping that if that trajectory continues, that by the time we get toward mid-November, that things will be in a better place. But the world is going to look different for a little while. We have seen shortfalls in collections, revenue collections. I'm sure you guys have too, to the tune of close to $5 billion in general revenue so far. A lot of that, a decent amount of that, has been it's sort of folks feel like are going to be able to be dealt with from some of the federal budget stabilization fund funding and things of that nature. We expect that there will be more freedom given in the next round of legislation from the Fed than there was in the first round in terms of how they can use the first round dollars and what the time frames are and things of that nature. And remember, we've got a multi-billion-dollar surplus sort of rainy day fund here in Florida, but $4 billion can get eaten up quick. So we do know that state agencies are being told by the governor's office of policy and budget that they need to find 8.5% in general revenue dollars that they can hold back and not spend in the current fiscal year that we just entered into, in expectation of continued down revenues. And we know that as a part of the legislative budget request process for the next fiscal year, as we start to look toward the next session, agencies have been told to identify 10.5% in cuts that they can make to general revenue. So, we're gonna see some cuts, and we're gonna see some shortfalls. We've been there before and seen it before, and I can tell you guys from my personal experience when I worked in the Speaker's office and when Dean was Speaker of the House, we had to cut $3.5 billion, I want to say it was, in our first session, and that was after multiple billions of dollars of cuts in the prior two sessions. And it's hard, and you make hard decisions, but there is money to operate government, and we want to continue to work with you guys to focus on where we can be helpful to you guys next year, even in a hard year, because we enjoy doing our work and love representing you guys in the good years. We think that we are the best opportunity to sort of help mitigate things when we come to the bad years. So thank you guys so much for the faith you've given us.
Kurt and Jessica, this is Commissioner Byrd. I just want to say thank you. We had a good session. I really appreciate your time with us and all the effort that you put forward with us concerning Henry County. But I just want to say thank you. I enjoyed meeting you guys and also working with you. Looking forward to the future.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jessica and Kurt, Mike Swindle. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that, I may not get a chance to say this again, I won't be in the seat but about another 83 or 4 days or so, depending on who's counting. when we interviewed and I met you guys, I had arrived at a place where had pretty much lost faith in the process and in the lobbying process. But you guys have absolutely demonstrated your professionalism and the value that you bring to Henry County, and I look forward that if God blesses me to move forward into a different political spot within this county, to continue working with you and bring more footprint that y'all have been able to demonstrate so far to the county. So I again want to say thank you as well.
Thank you. We very much appreciate that and definitely want to keep working with you. And good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for the report. We appreciate all you've done, and just to echo what the other commissioners already said, we look forward to the next year. I've only been on the board 4 years, and to hear the board members speak, I believe that it's probably one of the best years we've ever had. So we are definitely appreciative for all the work that you put in. Thank you for taking the time with us. I know sometimes, especially myself, can be aggravating because I'm still learning the process. So thank y'all for your patience, and we appreciate all that you do for Henry County.
Well, thank you guys so much. Is there anything else you need from us this evening?
No, ma'am, I think we're good. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to come on the call today.
Absolutely. Y'all have a great night.
You as
Thank
well. Ms. Gadsden, you're up next. Thank you for your quick response the other day. I had a little situation I had going and sent it to Jennifer, and she got over to you, and you responded right away. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening.
Carl? Why isn't it on? Turn it on.
I don't hear the fan though. It's blinking, so I don't want to sleep. Take the mic off. Right there where you're at, Carl.
They have to record it. I know, right?
Now this I don't like. Okay. Good evening, Sabrina Gatson for the record, Housing and Social Services. Today we're going to do our annual informational on our housing programs. As you can see on the slide, our mission statement is to improve community and quality of life through providing funds and opportunity to expand production and preserve affordable housing in Hendry County. Our first program we're going to talk about is our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. We have 43 vouchers for the entire county. Of those 43 vouchers, 36 have been issued, and we have one client who is a port out with our voucher. And of the 36 that we have, since I've been here since 2017, I've issued 14 vouchers. Hopefully by the end of this year, we will issue out some additional vouchers.
Ms. Gadsden, I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm the only one, but I'm not sure what a port out.
No, I have no clue what you're talking about either.
A port out is just someone who has a voucher can take that voucher to another area, as long as that county or area they're going to have a housing authority who will accept their voucher. Our one port out is actually ported out in Puerto Rico.
What does
Yeah.
a voucher holder mean?
It means someone who has a physical voucher, which is a paper saying that they are a participant of the Section 8 program. It has their voucher number, it has their name, date of birth, that information on it, as well as what voucher size that they have.
So Henry County has 43 voucher holders.
No, we have 43 vouchers
We have 43 vouchers.
with 36 voucher holders.
14 of those 36 voucher holders have been issued since 2017.
Yep,
The remaining, so 36 voucher holders, 14, okay. So the 14 plus to get us to 36 total, what qualifies them?
it is based upon when we actually have them to come in and complete an application. We look at their finances and see whether or not they qualify, because it's basically determined by their income. So they're income qualified, and if they are income qualified, then we will issue them a voucher, and they will use that voucher to be able to seek out housing within Hendry County for the first year, and then after that year, they can port out to anywhere they want to go. But they will seek out housing in Hendry County, and that voucher will allow us, as far as HUD, to pay a portion of their rent according to their income.
So you're talking about rent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it just rent?
It is just rent. They do receive a utility allowance, but that utility allowance, of course, again, is based upon the income as well as the amount of rent that the homeowner charge.
Two of the 36 were returned due to home ownership.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
It means that they came back and said, I no longer need your voucher, I've purchased a home.
And do we know, so those people that purchased homes, did that take us back to 34, or does that keep us?
No, that actually took us,
From 38 to 36?
no,
Nope.
because what happens is the number fluctuates throughout the years. So
Years or year?
Years.
Okay.
It fluctuates all the time.
Okay.
Because you have people who like this, they went into home ownership.
Yes, ma'am.
So they return their voucher. You have people who pass away. So of course they lose the voucher because they don't need it.
Yes, ma'am.
And so what we do is I turn around and then issue more vouchers from the people that's on our wait list. I will take them off of that wait list and issue them a voucher. So I keep trying to keep this process going where we would take people off the wait list and issue vouchers.
Do you make that decision by yourself, Ms. Gaston, or do you have a team of people that sit with you?
I make that decision by myself.
10-4.
That's good.
Can I clarify maybe something? Because I had this question really fast. So, you know, there's a delta between 36 and 43. So you might ask yourself, well, why don't we have 43 vouchers? Why are we only, you know, accommodating people for 36 vouchers? And so part of the answer is we only get a finite amount of money per year. And there's a pool, the pool of people that make up these 36 vouchers, they have different income qualifications. So depending on what their income qualification is, we might pay all of
the
their
rent.
We only may pay 80%, we may pay 50%. Don't hold me to those percentages, but as an example. So depending on what your pool, your current pool is, the amount of money that's available to pay for rent fluctuates. So if we had a certain pool of folks, we wouldn't necessarily have the money to issue all 43 vouchers. However, if our pool of folks are within a different kind of, we're paying less of their rent, maybe, then we might be able to have
more.
the additional vouchers. So that was a question I had, and I would maybe clarify that with you all.
Do the vouchers that you carry from year to year, do these same folks, are they on there from year to year to year?
Yes, sir. Normally, most of our voucher holders, once they receive a voucher, they usually die with the voucher, normally. But
So it's
since,
mostly maybe an older based is what we're talking about then?
no, not necessarily.
Well, why would they stay on there forever?
It may be disability.
It could be a disabled,
I can
and it
understand
could be that they're in a low-paying job where they cannot financially pay for their rent, you know, utilities, take care of their children, feed them, clothe them, whatever. So the subsidized rent helps their household. And also, we have non-port-ins, and port-ins is those who have vouchers issued from another housing authority, but decided they wanted to stay in Hendry County, and we bill that housing authority for them coming into our county. Any questions?
Of the 9 port-ins,
Mm-hmm.
I think what you just said is that doesn't take from our
No,
$190,000 to $210,000 in funding.
no, it does not take away from our funding. In fact, it increases our funding to help us because we bill those housing authorities. So We bill them not only the cost of their rent, but we also charge them an administrative fee for sending their clients over to Hendry County.
How much are we allowed to drill in on a voucher recipient to know, is the county able to know what their median income is, what they do for a living, how many people are in their household?
Yeah,
We are?
That's how that decision's made.
that's how, yeah.
Well, that's public information.
No, it's not public
Not
information. But if you want, you can always call me and I will look that up for you and provide it to you.
I'd just love to see a report on it because, I don't know if we could redact certain information and know that because to Commissioner Harris's point, I'd love to see how, what are the people that are receiving this assistance and what's their tenure on it? And then what wraparound services, I guess, are being provided to make sure they're able to get out of that and we're able to hopefully push it to an area where it's able to affect somebody, in a greater capacity.
So to that point, and we can provide that to you, and to that point, we go through this exercise every so often. I can't remember the exact date that I looked this same information up for, I think, the reason you're asking. And what I found is, that's why I mentioned disability. What I found is that at that time, the majority of our voucher holders were vouchers for folks with disabilities. So it might be a disabled child, so the parents are not able to work because they have to take care of that child, or it may be, the recipient themselves. And so, but we'll get that information to you.
What do we have? 20? Is it, I'm sorry, I don't know this. Is it, you may know this. How many households do we have in Hendry County? Is it 21,000?
Oh, it's north of that.
Households. Probably got one there.
You look at, you just look at 36 people that are receiving this. It's not I don't know if it's 36 families or 36 individuals.
It's 36 families. Very few of our voucher holders are single family.
Gotcha.
And if it is, it's because it's someone who's elderly and or disabled. Any other questions?
Keep going.
Our next program is our Community Development Block Grant, our CDBG. We received $850,000 in CDBG funds. The maximum award amount is $80,000 for an individual household. And we use those funds to be able to demo and replace homes and rehab homes. We received 20 applications. So far, we've assisted those 10 homes will be assisted in total. 2 were demo and replacements, and 5 was demo and replacement of mobile homes, and 3 was rehabilitative services for homes. Any questions?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, so along those lines, I guess, so again, you're pretty much a staff of one, correct?
I am.
And so you're basically you're just contracting, you're the conduit between the money and helping them get contractors and seeing all that works get done and paid, correct?
I am, but we also have a contracted company that assists me.
Okay, all right, so yeah, that's what I was wondering, you don't have staff that's going out and overseeing or anything like that, so it's contracted?
Mhm.
Okay, that's
Do you
good.
do the mobile homes because of the cost?
We do the mobile homes because of for mobile homes, we pretty much demo and replace those. We don't rehab mobile homes.
No, but you do it because of the cost. It's cheaper to do that than build a house.
Yes. And with this year, after Hurricane Irma, we was given permission to be able to demo and replace with a mobile home.
Who gave you that permission?
The state did. FDEO gave us permission. They found that it was more cost effective to be able to do it with mobile homes versus doing single family homes.
So do you know what the cost would be?
Right now, I think we the bid was a little bit over $78,000 to replace mobile homes.
Mr. Chair? So, Ms. Gasson, so you said you had 20 applications received over what time frame?
We received them in 2017.
Okay. And so 2017, so we're now getting ready to finish up the fiscal for 2020 and, or 2019. And of the 28 applications that were received, we did the 2 demos, the 5 and the 3, and that's it.
And that's it.
What happened to the other 10
Okay?
applications?
3 was over the income limit. 2 refused the program. After they completed the application, they said no, they didn't want to deal with it. 2 was referred to SHIP, and
6, 7,
yeah, 2 was incomplete applications.
8, 9.
And 1 person, because of the location of her home, she was not qualified because she was in the city limits of LaBelle.
And why? Okay, so that's another question I have. But maximum award amount is $80,000. Why?
Because that's what we put in our HAP, that we will allow up to a maximum of $80,000.
HAP being the Housing Assistance Program.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask this board to reconsider that. And and the reason being is, and I also would like to ask this board to have a discussion about this mobile home replacement. I think that if we're using dollars, and unless y'all vehemently disagree, at which point I'd love to still chat about it. If we're getting dollars, and we know that we're at that $78,000 to $80,000 mark, then yeah, we are kind of, in my opinion, tying the hands of said homeowner, because construction company X could probably get you into a single family bricks and mortar that's going to appreciate in value over time for $120,000, $135,000, right? I don't know what the square footage works out to. We can do the math. It's not hard. But we have through our housing assistance program language boxed that into an $80,000 award. We had talked about this, I think, 2 years ago in LaBelle. I remember vividly the conversation publicly. And I think that we need to revisit that, and we need to think about it, because, if it's 10 versus 8, or if it's 10 versus 6, I'd love to look what the return is over an appreciation schedule versus what the depreciation of that mobile home looks like. And I think that if we're trying to build the tax base of Hendry County, we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
So, to be clear, can I clarify what just from my understanding? What you're saying is you think 80,000 is too low, we need to go with the 100, 110 so they can build a single family home.
We need to survey, we need to ask Ms. Gaston, or whoever is maybe Ms. Imblage and Ms. Gaston together. They survey our home builders, right? Our local home building force. I have not talked to Clyde Johnson, for example, but I guarantee you Clyde Johnson will not touch something if he knows that he's bidding up against someone that they can come in and put a mobile home in at $78,000, and he was looking at it and saying, he could probably buy the same mobile home and do it for 78, 82. There's no margins, by the way, at $80,000. If somebody's buying it and selling it there, somebody's making $1,500 to $2,000 off of that, unless they're getting paid to do the demo. I don't really know. But some people will work for free. They're cool with that. I'm not. The point I'm making is that we have businesses, I think, that could give us a solid number, and they could express to our county staff, we can put you a single-family home together for $135,000. This is the cookie-cutter mold that it will look like. We're going to help build the tax base of Hendry County. It's going to have gabled roof or a hip roof, so on and so forth, and I just think that it would help.
And I remember the conversation. Remember, it was when we were going through all the modular homes, and I believe that gentleman said, 110,000 with a lot
I
of
thought it was
everything.
132, but I know what you're talking about. Yes, sir.
Started out at
The
110.
rooms, the windows weren't real gorgeous, and there were some things that it didn't have, but
That's immaterial at this point in time. You're just saying we need to adjust that number so that can happen no matter
we
what.
have
our
her
number is.
hands tied right now at an $80,000 mark. And Ms. Gaston, you being the prudent person that you are, you're saying, I want to bring back as many changes as I can to the board so that y'all can approve this, and you can see that we're touching 10 or 15 or 18 people, and that they're qualifying for that. So she's trying to go as far as she can with her numbers. But Ms. Gaston, you wouldn't be opposed to if we moved that number and gave you the ability.
No, I wouldn't.
And then Ms. Gaston, I would love to know from you. I also remember looking at the 2 last reports that you've had in our board book. There were some time frames in there that they hurt my head, and then we were asking for extensions, and I don't think that's on you either. But I also think that so many times when you deal, and I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying it. It won't be the first time. how can I diplomatically say this? When you're dealing with companies that are doing well financially and they feel good about the product that they're pushing out the door, they're more apt to finish in time. And there are contractors out there that are trying to bid a job, and they're trying to make they're working on the razor's edge, so to speak. And the first little hiccup that they have working on this project is going to cause this project and this project and this project to all fall behind. And I think when we're drilling you into a 67 to 78 to a $74,000 number, if it's 81,000, she says, "Oh, sorry, I can't touch it." That's happened, right? You got to throw that bid out.
I have to.
Now you're just there's no money. There's no money to be made there for anybody. And in the process, we don't do anything for the constituents of Hendry County. So I think that we should open that up. I don't think that we should make that decision tonight. I think that you should bring us a solid suggestion back, Ms. Gaston. We're talking with staff, whoever it is that you have that relationship with, and then y'all should survey some home builders. And I think that we should get serious about it. Not that this isn't serious. Not that what you're doing isn't serious. I'm just saying I think we can make it have a little bit more pop to it than what you're doing thus far.
I understand,
Yes, ma'am.
and I believe that if we do increase the dollar amount, it would be better, because, again, we could be able to build someone a single-family home,
Yes,
take them out of a mobile home and put them into a single-family home, so,
You could do 120 and then just not do as many.
yes, sir, we can.
Exactly.
It's just that whenever we get additional CDBG funds, because this one is getting ready to close out, that is something that we need to look at and to redo our HAP to include that.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much time frame is that?
To do what?
To redo it? How much time do you have before that we could redo it, resubmit it? Because I know that it's closed out this year.
It's closing out this year, so right now, it wouldn't even benefit us to even try to redo the
When you-
HAP.
Okay.
So everything you got comes out of 850?
Sir?
Yes.
Everything you have comes out of 850?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to clarify one other thing. You said it's spoken for this year. What you're referencing is the 850K is spoken for.
It is.
But it would be prudent on our end to go ahead and look at the housing assistance program language that we have in-house, and let's
And
tweak
change-
that.
Okay.
And let's be ready to go for the following
next one.
fiscal. Yep, okay, great. Yep.
Our next program is our State Housing Initiatives Partnership, which is our SHIP. We receive $350,000 in funding annually. We just completed the 16-17 report. We rehabilitated 8 homes, as well as giving 7 households down payment and closing cost assistance.
How much did that take all the 350?
Yes, sir, plus additional 3,000.
Oh, okay.
For reporting year 17, 18, we did not take any applications because we received so many applications for the 16, 17 fiscal year. We just kept people on the wait list according to when we received their application. So we have 21 applications on the wait list right now.
This is on SHIP still.
This is SHIP.
Okay, so quick question, Mr. Chair. So in the 16-17 reporting year, that was $350K that you used to rehabilitate 8 homes and provide 7 down payments.
Yes.
So 15 households benefited from that $350,000.
Yes, sir.
For an average of, right?
An average of,
X number of dollars. Like if it was just a 8 houses, it'd be $43K a piece that they did. But obviously you had closing costs for 7 households. So I don't know. How do those people get qualified to be on SHIP?
they have to meet the income qualifications.
Is it roughly the same as the previous?
Roughly the same for CDBG?
Yes, ma'am.
No, sir.
No. Okay.
SHIP goes up to 120% of the income limits.
Okay.
CDBG goes up to 80%
Okay.
of the income limits.
And Mr. Chair, Carson, it's not the same need, so everybody don't have the same need with the SHIP program.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody might just need a roof, or somebody might need windows, so the access not the same, so that's why it fluctuates.
Well, are we sitting right now, Ms. Gaston, with 350 for 17-18, 350 for 18-19, 315 for 19-20? That's
Yes.
sitting in an account somewhere,
sitting in
hanging
an
out,
account.
ready to be spent.
Ready to be spent.
Okay. Mr. Chair, what do you need from us to facilitate spending that money quicker?
We really do need to look at, it's more on my end, is getting this process and working with my contractor to get it moving along faster. This year was a
You're
really.
being real nice right now.
I'm always
She
nice.
She being real nice.
I'm always nice.
For solutions in just a minute, we're gonna ask you for your, hopefully permission.
She's being real.
So you're not
nice.
going to say anything bad about the contractors, but I'm going to ask you very directly: are they horrible people to work with, and they're just incompetent, or are
They're
they?
neither.
They're neither. Okay.
They're not horrible people to work with, and
All
they're
right.
not incompetent.
Okay.
However, they've had a significant amount of turnover
All right.
in their office, which has put us behind
All right.
because we're constantly trying to get people up to speed where we're at, what we're trying to do, and to get them to understand what I need them to do.
Well, do you delete?
That sounds pretty
do you de-
horrible.
Well-
Do you delete those people?
Do I delete those people?
Yeah.
How do you delete people?
We
I know.
engaged-
I know how
what he's asking is we
Can't.
engaged other contractors.
So,
We have met with an additional contractor to be able to see if they can be able to come in and assist us with our programs and how we can be able to facilitate that.
Ms.
I hate the
Davis?
One guy's 3 years behind, but we gotta.
What's our cap on this one?
Somebody
Ms.
got-
Gass?
Also, there's a guardian that's over them. There's
So-
not just the contractor, there's a guardian that monitor the contractors.
not to skip over, but we've got some points of concern, and that was this is one of the things we were gonna talk about, so you're already there. And so in that bullet point, we were gonna ask to be able to go out to RFP, to seek, services to assist Ms. Gadsden in these programs to be able to be more proactive and move things along quicker. So that is part of our presentation and request from you tonight.
A consulting firm.
Yes.
Okay. So essentially a hired gun to come in and help assist.
And so we
Okay.
have that, and
Yep.
we've had that, just to be clear, like going back a little bit from a history lesson.
Wasn't the Nancy
Nancy
Phillips? I remember.
So we've always, this isn't new,
Uh-uh.
okay, so we've always needed some assistance. You can either do it internally, you can hire employees, and we'd have to hire maybe even a team of employees to facilitate what these private contractors do. So the county historically has chose not to do that, and we seek firms that specialize in these types of programs, and then we feel like it's more cost-effective usually and efficient, and that's the idea. And so Nancy Phillips and Associates did it for many years. They were very good, very effective. Nancy retired,
Yep.
and so we have some new folks, and so we've discussed this, we feel like it's time to go back out to bid and seek some additional services to help us be more timely and efficient.
Yeah, it's too much for one person.
It is.
Well, and no disrespect to you, Ms. Gaston, but, you know, I'm sure you probably have learned a lot about contracting that you didn't know over the years. But a
That's true.
contractor can tell you a whole bunch of stuff, and it may sound real proper, but it ain't, you know? And so essentially what you do is you just give them more time because you're trying to make your client happy and you're trying to keep them in the game. And, you know, it's a difficult world to exist in. And then the other thing I would ask you, you don't have to answer this, but you don't really have a stick to beat anyone with. So your ability to actually say, all right, I need y'all to actually speed up and or you're out. I don't know what those ramifications are, you know, what the contract looks like. So, I mean, they can just sit on you all day long, and what are you going to do, you know? So, Ms. Gaston, in the SHIP program, is that capped at a particular dollar threshold?
It is. We've increased it up to $40,000.
We did that for you, right?
2 years ago.
Okay.
We increased it from 30 to 40,000.
Per individual request, but a homeowner could have multiple requests on the same application, wasn't it? No.
Well, they can request several things to be done in their home.
Yes.
But it's one application.
One application at 40K.
At 40K. So they can come in and say, I need my roof to be done, my kitchen, my bathrooms, the floors, and within that $40,000, we'll try to work in what they need.
Once again, Mr. Chair, I just think that's another conversation for her to have, you know, Ms. Gaston, because obviously, if we did that 2 years ago, I don't know what the escalators have happened, you know, but commodities go up. That's what that's what these companies are dealing with, you know, and then obviously as whether those commodities go up or not, if the market is calling for them to be busier, then they're not gonna work for
Well,
less money either.
That's
So,
true.
you know,
And for our emergency assistance for rehab projects, that is anything that has a health and safety issue that costs less than 15,000. We have 5 applicants on the wait list for emergency assistance. So that could be an elderly person in their home, and the home is hot, and they need an air conditioning in their home. So we would come in and put an air conditioner, or if they have a leak, it would be just that roof to be able to cover the cost of the roof. We received $150,000 in disaster funding for Hurricane Irma. Right now, we have 2 applicants on the wait list for disaster recovery. We had more clients on the wait list, however, they decided they didn't want to continue to wait for us on our program. Both our disaster and our emergency assistance run concurrent with our other rehab projects. So we run all those projects at the same time.
they're all coming out of the same $350,000 pot.
Well, disaster recovery actually received $150,000 funds in
Emergency
addition.
assistance?
Emergency assistance comes out of that 350.
All right. How many people have you helped with emergency assistance in the last 2 years?
Oh.
Less than 5?
No, about 7.
And so the way you have this written is there's 5 applicants on the wait list,
On the wait list right now.
but you have people that are receiving emergency assistance right now as well?
No,
No.
not at this current time.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Katzen, what I have learned about the Hurricane Irma, CDBG, HUD, you name it, DR grants is, they are unbelievably arduous and hard and lengthy and long and cumbersome and taskful and OMG. So my question is, how much of that gets passed on? Because I could see where if you took a fraction of that to the average homeowner, I wouldn't wait either.
They're not can't wait. They can't do it.
Can't do it or can't wait, one way or the other. So is that happening?
Well, we have some homeowners who prefer to go to someone else because we require that you have insurance. Because if we come in and we give you $40,000.
I don't think that's what he's asking, Ms. Gaston.
Okay,
The process. So what is the cumbersome load on said homeowner that needs, well, the emergency,
Let's
work,
use those
for example?
5. Of those 5 people,
Right.
Wait.
So what is it on their end that they have to produce, do, fill out? Is it a huge monumental task for them
No.
to get there?
no, it's actually just completing an application and attaching those documents that we asked for.
Okay.
but can you drill in on for us that? Is that application, is it 7 pages long? Is it 2 pages long? You don't have to be succinct.
The application is 15 pages long.
That's pretty daggone long.
But you have to understand, when we have 1 whole page is just a page for you to list, tell me what do you need to have done in your home.
Uh-huh.
1 page is give me your name,
Uh-huh.
your social, check whether or not you want to have emergency assistance, rehab, or disaster recovery.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. It is, 1 page is just telling me whether or not is there someone in the household who's disabled, because you receive preference for a disabled household. So
Score higher.
you score higher.
My guess is that form was given to you and mandate that this is the one thou shalt use. Is that correct?
That is the one that we
So-
use.
So we don't even have a choice. She doesn't have a choice. We can't change that. 'Cause
Nope,
when
that's
you-
not what she didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right. I said that was what we use.
And her nonverbal
Oh.
communique said, I'd like to change it, but she won't say that either because
But
she's
it's
too nice.
is there not, because you need that information
I do need that
in order
information.
to move
Right,
forward.
because she
So-
has to answer it, so she has to gather it, is what I'm saying. So
Ms. Gaston, do
they're
you
telling her.
think any of that process is not needed? Or do you like it right now? Would you tweak it? If you had a magic wand, how much are you cutting that nonsense out or adding different things to it?
I wouldn't change the
Okay,
application.
that's all I needed to know.
The application is it's simple,
Yes, ma'am.
it's straightforward.
Okay.
and it's not really cumbersome.
Okay.
And so anybody can really understand the questions that we're asking them. We're not making it so grandiose that people can't understand basic questions.
Okay.
So
All right, so, but along the other question that you had, though, Commissioner Swindle, I want to know is you get $350,000 for that program every year.
mhm.
How difficult is that process for you? What caps it at 350, or how are we so fortunate to get $350,000 every year? And are you having to fill out a tremendous amount of paperwork to get that?
No,
No.
I do not. We automatically received the $350,000 from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. That is the minimum amount that you can receive.
Okay.
And because we're such a small county, we get the minimum amount.
Are we allowed to take some of that money and use that for said help that we're contemplating?
For the.
10% can be used for administrative
Okay.
fees.
Yes.
But that's not part of your,
Administrative.
that's not part of her package. It's 10% out of the, so
Project
35,000 out of that
delivery,
350.
And 5% for the administrative.
We'll be able to use.
10% is for, say, salary and benefits of an employee.
Okay.
And
Project,
we can-
um,
Project management.
Project
we got
delivery
it.
is 10%, 5% can be used for administrative.
And that's out of the big pot.
Okay.
not the 10%.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Gaston, how long do it take you to process the application? Because I know this, I do know when we talk, the ones that you're doing now is from 16, 17. So do you have that year to process the ones from 17, 18? How long do it take you to process the application?
Because I've usually handle only the down payment and closing cost applications. That's the portion that I primarily deal with. I generally send out the rehab contract to our contractors.
Okay.
So Guardian handles that, and typically it takes them about 2 months.
Okay.
For me to do my, for the down payment and closing cost, it takes me a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But I receive less applications, and so,
And I just ask that simply because it's from 1 year, you know, it takes that amount of time to get, before it gets to the other year. Because I remember we was helping somebody, they was still from maybe a couple of years prior to me coming in, so, okay.
That's kind of the question I have listening to all this. I mean, my question is, what do we really need to do to help you
Yep.
get caught up? We're 3 years behind. I mean, obviously, they can't wait 3 years to get an air conditioner or water heater replaced, doors and windows. I mean, so what do we as a board need to do to equip you? To get
Yes.
us caught up to where we need to be? If someone's house is blown away in a hurricane, we can get them back in it in less than 3 years.
Very well said, Mr. Chair, because, you know, I think that the gist, I just want to focus on that. I just want to drill in on that one issue, Ms. Gaston. You have 5 applicants that are on the wait list for emergency assistance, and that's a $15,000 cap. My question to you specifically is, what could, just echoing exactly what he said, what could this board do to facilitate to get those 5 applicants checked off?
at this point, really, we're working with those 5 applicants right now. So there's really nothing at this point you can do to help assist, because like I said, we're working with them right now.
When you say working with them, make sure they have everything, make sure they have their documents.
Making sure that they provide us with the documents that we
And
need.
you don't want to push them away, you want to make sure they get, okay, I
And just
understand.
come on and just give us, and sometimes it's the homeowner. We can say, I need you to be able to provide this to me, and you got those that they drag their feet. I'll bring it, and then they don't. So, and sometimes it could be just on us too, that we're not pushing them to be able to bring those documents in.
I don't like that, Mr. Chair.
Do you
Well,
have a window?
That's the reason I'm asking the question. What do we need to do to equip you? Because I mean,
We're
the
looking-
contractor taking 2 to 3 months to look at a house, that's just, and especially the last several years, they were starving to death. So it's hard to believe they wasn't beating the street loose to get there and look at it. So I'm just curious. I mean, I know you can't do it by yourself, trust me. We do that to all Audubon County employees. So what do we gotta do?
So just to put it in perspective, so we absolutely, I don't, ship dollars are alive, if you will, for 3 years. Since I've worked for the county, even back when I was at the clerk's office, we've always worked on that first year, and we've always pretty much, maybe not every single year, but most years, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we've been working on that 3rd year, right? And so before
Capacity, so you would be able to go 15% plus or minus to
And
that
choose
one
another
contract and give that to someone else. Okay.
Yes,
Isn't the 15% plus or minus an estimate prepared by your consultant?
It
of
is.
What it should be?
it is.
They estimate in advance, this is what we think the bids ought to come in at, and then the 15% plus or minus is off of that number.
I don't agree with that.
What, is
How's
that
it-
am I
is it-
correct? That That's what it is?
Is the consultant a contractor?
That's the Guardian
Yes.
that
That's
we
the
use.
Guardian?
No, it's Guardian that we use.
It's
our-
Guardian.
It's our consultant.
And the person who is going out doing this, he has been working in, as a contractor or in that industry for years, so he has a general knowledge of how much it would take to be able to bid out a project.
And that person's just getting a portion of that 10%. That's what they're getting paid from.
Yes. Or the administrative fees.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I'm sorry, not administrative, project delivery.
Project delivery, yes.
I have to make sure it's the right one. The change orders and the accurate statement of work, which caused delays and assistance. This is in reference to what you was talking about. Just previously, we just had a lot of change orders, coming through, and hopefully with a new agency to be able to assist, we can be able to get more accurate statement of work so that we can be able to do the work without having to come back to the board constantly asking for a change order 1, 2, 3, and 4.
You don't have a policy on the change order?
No, sir.
Because that, a lot of times that's where they make their money. They bid low and then make a bunch of change orders.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Mr. Chair, it was a little bit more to it, but they're trying to tweak some things to keep it from coming back to the board. So that's the purpose of them doing this along with, the Guardian and the contractor. So if they, was able to, what we call it, RFP it out, it's gonna be a big benefit for not
Hopefully.
only them and us too, so hopefully. And I have to say, Sabrina been working hard because I tell you to keep coming back and forth for said, when things are being done, they had to move some things, so, but I have to give it to her.
There's no one, we all understand that, we're just trying to figure out a way to help you. I mean, that's the key, we're not questioning what you're doing, we're just trying to get a way to help you better. I mean, to me, and this is gonna sound bad, I don't mean it to, but it's going to. I mean, if I have someone that's bidding my jobs, and every time he comes in, he's 25 to 30% off, he's fired. When I send someone out to do the work, if I have an estimator, you better be close.
Okay.
You better be close. My estimator's always dropping the ball, and there's, okay, we gotta add this, we gotta add that. He's not gonna last too long. And I believe that might be part of our holdup. If this gentleman's or lady, whatever it is, I don't know, it could be a lady or a gentleman, if they're way off every time, there's a problem. So that's part of your holdup.
And if they're too low, that's a problem.
Well, either way, yes, sir. I mean, they should be, if they do this every day for a living, if Commissioner Turner goes and bids a job, electrical job, he's not gonna be 30% off.
We're gonna be 30% high.
Well, there you go. But that's the point there.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have to come back and ask for changes.
No.
You're gonna have what you need in the, that's the way a contractor, that's the way you do
No
business.
change orders.
Yeah.
And then to add to that a little bit as well, I would love to have all the contractors in a room and ask them what their thoughts are on those estimates. Reason being, Ms. Gadsden, is, let's use South Florida Water Management District. They're a multi-billion-dollar agency. They just did STA 1 West expansion. Their budget estimate was 106 to 135 million on that job. They had two contractors come in, 96,800,000, 96,900,000. The third contractor was 194 million. I don't know if the South Florida Water Management District was wanting to commit Harry Carey because they had so many people, they did have two that were 100,000 separating on a project of that magnitude. That's kind of scary. But they had a third that's very reputable that was at 194 million. So, where was the budget estimate? Is the third contractor really busy? How does that all play out there? And, I've looked at some of those. I've looked at all of those projects that you give to us to review. And I look at some of them and I say, I don't know, what I don't know what the margins are here. They're not going to make a lot of money off of this job. Somebody's just pushing something across the table to get somebody into a house. And I think, and a couple times I felt somebody was undercutting to get the work. And then now they're, they're 900 plus days on performance on a $70,000 job. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And my last point on the points of concern is unable to assist those over the 120% income limits for the down payment and closing cost program for SHIP.
How many, you got a number? What's the number that looks like? Is it 5, 10, 20? What would you think that number would be?
For over the 120%?
Yes, ma'am.
In the 16, 17 applicants, I had 3
Okay.
that I had to turn away. And
So-
2 of those was part of considered to be our essential staff,
Oh, wow.
essential personnel.
So where do you think it needs to be? What percent are you
We,
saying?
we cannot change the 120%
Oh, okay.
income limit.
Okay.
That is something that is set.
It's a federal requirement.
But what else could we do to assist them if we can't change it?
We can't change it, but we can refer them to other programs like the Florida Bond Program or to HUD which has a down payment assistance program to see if they can be able to get assistance through them.
Okay.
Or
Did
they
you
can be
need
able to
us
apply
do that?
for.
Did you need us to, or can you do that?
the
Are
what?
you allowed to do that, to assist them in that area?
I can refer them
them?
over to them, but I don't do that.
You got nothing.
Right, they gotta wanna do something, right? It's kinda your,
Yeah.
I can just lead them to it, but they're going to have to actually do it themselves. To continue to advertise and for our solutions, to continue to advertise, encourage new contractors for our programs, for our rehab programs, and to be able to hold a contractor's orientation so we can be able to explain the program, how it works, and what kind of projects they'll be working on and whatnot, so they can get a feel for what we're doing and get an understanding. Go out for RFP for housing delivery assistance, and then to increase the maximum award amount for the SHIP program from $40,000 to $50,000. It will shorten the number of households we help. However, it would give better help, a greater help to those households.
Now, after our conversation, is this your comprehensive list, or was there another slide?
there's
Okay.
another slide.
All right.
In which I've already spoke about the Florida Bond Program. And we also is considering an amendment to the Hendry County Affordable Housing criteria to allow funds to augment programs for SHIP, HUD, and disaster assistance. And that is the amount of money we have in that fund at this present time.
Where does that get funded from, Mr. Chair?
Can't answer that question. I think we can ask
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead. Well, you probably need to get to the microphone.
That's the fund that we
We created.
collect money from proceeds of sales of lots that we own.
Yeah.
And
okay.
every 3 years, we update the list and update the resolution that adopts the list as the properties sell. What happened here? There you go.
What's the list that I think we should be foreclosing on like mad and we don't, right?
No,
We don't foreclose or
no.
not the list?
This is,
It's not that list?
not that list, sir.
Okay.
But
This is the tax deed properties that is cheap to us that the county owns and then sells on the free market and we get proceeds.
Got you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. But what we've done over the last few years is we've developed different criteria that basically allows us to provide certain assistance. And after Hurricane Irma, we added some additional assistance that would be permitted for the Hurricane Irma, folks that were needing more money. Our challenge with that is that again is based on, folks have to be considered in the income level for affordable housing. So it doesn't allow us to assist the 120% and up. So it's still for the same pool of income folks. And anyway, so we want to come forward, though, and amend it so that we can get rid of the language that we've referred to Hurricane Irma, and possibly just, make it more general so that it can apply at any given time, and not, it does, there's certain criteria that does apply to the SHIP and the HUD funds where we can augment those. In addition to the funds that we've already talked about, this was allowing us to provide additional $2,500 for down payment, and for the HUD program, the rental program, we were able to help with the security deposits and the first month's rent and so on. So when they were kind of strapped for the initial need, and that really came about with Irma, where folks had to find a new place to live, and they didn't have the monies for the down payment and the first month's rent. So anyway, we're going to amend that and look at, see if there's any other opportunities to add to it, but I don't want to make it, I want to keep it general so that it can apply to all situations that we
Are
can.
you speaking of the 4 months that they're supposed to be out of the home during the time of the house being built?
No, that's not part of what this is, but that could be something that we look at to assist with housing, displacement housing.
Because I would like for us to look at that, because we had some bumps in the road.
Yeah,
To
we
make sure
did.
we tweet that,
Mhm.
before going back
Right, no, that's a
out.
good idea. We'll have to look at that. So, any other questions on that particular fund?
What are y'all looking for tonight? Y'all wanting us to make some action tonight, or do you?
I think so.
Well, and I'm okay with doing that, but I didn't know if you wanted to go back and look at, is it the HAP? The HAP amount and make a comprehensive list, or do you want to go ahead and move forward to some of these items tonight?
I think the number one thing they're asking for is, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the number one thing you're asking for is the ability to go out to bid for another consulting firm, or whatever that's called, to help us in the process of getting these actual numbers or these budget estimates on SHIP and what's CDBG funding sources.
Did he capture that correctly?
Yes, sir.
I'll second the motion.
So, yes, and the other part of this is that Jennifer and I have talked about this, and about the potential to hire another person that would not only assist Sabrina, but also Tamara, who's our grants person, because Tamara also touches, like the CDBG grant that Sabrina manages. So there's a lot of, there's other folks involved with some of these grants and the dollars that we're spending. I mean, Myra does some administrative work for Sabrina, and we still can't get it all done. So it's just something to think about. I know that not everybody likes me hearing talk about adding more employees, but I think it would go a long way, but
But it all
that's
comes out
my
of her-
opinion.
Comes out of her budget.
No, her budget's
one-
already
that
capped.
one
I'm
won't.
talking about for the new employee.
We thought it would come out of your budget.
Okay. You want peanut butter on it?
Her budget is already probably
Yes.
exasperated,
It's
or
tapped.
right at the threshold for what we're paying Ms. Gadsden.
Well, it come out of
What's
Margaret's.
that?
Right here.
I don't think they have any, so Mr. Chair, I think a couple things that could be considered on that. What I'd love to know, Ms. Embledge, is what that extra, and you don't have to answer this right now, Ms. Embledge, it's just some things I'm gonna throw at you. What would that investment do to our backlog? How would that return look like? And then number two is, there have to be consulting firms that are out there, that's what they do, I can't remember the lady's last name. I know her first name was Lisa, and she was an underwriter for a number of programs at Florida Association of Counties, and she knew exactly what our SHIP numbers were. She knew exactly what she knew everything, and she said she even knew what our backlog was. And I remember it was a little bit spooky. And she's like, "Don't be weirded out. I know this about all of rural Florida, and this is my specialty." And then she never, I think it's Lisa
It
Sands.
was Lisa.
I think it's Lisa.
One of my
No,
first
Lisa
years.
Sands is United Way.
Yes, it was my first year though.
No, not Lisa Hurley. She's a lobbyist. I can't remember. Anyway, I'll find out. But she was very aggressive about that and said, and they do it for peanuts in comparison, So I would just love to see what those houses out there that do that, no pun intended on the
Yeah.
houses, do. And then the final comment that I would have on this is, out of the 60,414, you know, if you were wanting to be creative, I bet that's something that we could use. Could we utilize that? And what does that look like every year? Does it get replenished? How does that play out?
It really is up to adding additional properties that we own and selling them
It
and,
fluctuates a little.
right, and so.
So market driven, definitely.
Well, and I couldn't, I think Mark would better answer this, is that really how many do we actually get in, you know, in a year?
Yeah.
That we can add to it. The Florida statutes requires to update it every 3 years, but I suspect that we could probably come back every year and update it if we had this influx of additional lots that we wanted to throw into the pot for that fund. But we can look into whether we could spend those dollars for administrative help, you know, with the programs. I'm not confident, but, you know, we can always check it out.
Put it in Commissioner Turner's, you know, jargon and lingo. For the love of God, can we move forward here?
Yeah.
Oh,
He has a motion. Do you want to put your statement in the form of a motion?
I make it in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Yeah, we got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is there anything else y'all need action on now for that?
The only thing I would request, Mr. Chair, is on the 5 emergency applicants. I'd love to have an update on that and get a drill down of what the status is, what their requests are. You know, I think they would be really interested to see that application process on a couple of them too.
I think it's just they're not moving to get what they need.
And I think that-
Whatever documents she might need, they're kind of slow with it.
I said to the chair, I didn't like that answer whenever
Yeah,
she said that.
I think it should be a deadline, so you can
Exactly.
move on to somebody
That's
else.
it.
If they
That's
want it bad enough,
That's exactly
they'll
right,
do what
Ms.
they have
Bird.
to do to get
I
it.
think that's another
So
part
I
of it.
think it
Commissioner
should be a
Swindle, why you shaking your head
deadline.
like that?
I deal with that, you know, Ms. Gadsden deals with it every day, and I live and deal in that world every day. And when you deal with that populace, you're thinking about it from a whole different realm of humanistic than what that populace thinks about it from. And you have to drag, beat, pull, push, you know, to get them over that finish line. I agree with what you're saying, but the number's gonna fall off even sharper if you start putting hard deadlines on it.
But Commissioner Swindle, for me, who are we not helping that needs help, that won't apply because Ms. Gaston, you're not taking any applications right now.
Yes, sir, I take emergency assistance applications throughout the year.
Okay, but what about SHIP?
SHIP applications, right now, I'm not accepting any applications.
But there are people that are in the application pool that owe you paperwork that haven't turned it in.
That is correct.
We're penalizing people that are aggressive, that are trying to get a leg up, because there are, to use Al Morrell's term, there are turds out there that don't want to do what they need to do. And we're honoring what they're requesting, and they're holding a spot for somebody
And
that
I'm only
wants to
talking
play.
about the emergency applications, not the SHIP, because I understand the SHIP requires so much more, but if the emergency piece where they're not getting the documents for you to move forward, you know, to try to push that. Because I understand the SHIP, because I kind of help you, and I went like, okay, so, but the emergency, you know, documents, if they got a pipeline bust and they gotta have it done,
Yeah.
you know, I like to see that move a little faster in that
Yeah.
area, but I understand the SHIP, please,
Just to
please.
tie this together for y'all, I have a meeting once a month, a ministerial meeting, both sides of the county. And for 4 years, Jennifer, I've come in and talked to you about this. Every month I get beat up. Why are we fixing this? Why are we fixing that? Why are we paying this? Why are we paying that? Isn't there a county function that pays this? Now that I know we're 3 and 4 years behind, I can tell them why we're having to pay light bills, why we're having to pay rent. Because that's where they go. When they go to the office and there's no assistance there, and they're told we're broke at the end of the month, they come to the church and they start asking us to pay rent. I have replaced water heaters, we have replaced, you name it, broken pipes, windows, air conditioners. So just so y'all know, that's the reason I'm asking the same question. What do we have to do to get this over the hump and on task? 4 years now since I've been sitting in this seat. I've been getting chewed on that once a month. Why are we still doing this? So that's why I'm asking the question.
And I would like to just kind of maybe end it by saying this one thing. You know, we have an enormous staff in Hendry County. and a lot of folks do a lot of good, but Miss Gadsden's one of those that she seems like single-handedly, she's pushing a boulder up a hill, and I want to let her know that I, for one, and I'm sure I speak for everyone up here, appreciate you, Miss Gadsden.
Yeah, that's a
That's
great,
what we said out
a
the
lot of
gate, you know,
details.
nothing for her at all.
Yeah.
She's doing all she can. You can only do what you can do. That's the reason I said, the way I said it was, how can we equip you?
Yep.
That's why we said that. Moving forward, Miss Embledge, you are up.
You never asked me that.
That's because you're not nice to me like you are, Mr. Harris.
I got it. Okay, so, public hearings?
Yes, ma'am, you're up.
Yes. This first agenda item under the public hearings section is a comp plan amendment, map amendment, that this is an adoption hearing. You've already heard this before as a transmittal hearing. This is for the property that is owned by John Stitt.
Yes,
that's
ma'am. Miss
up
Embledge,
yes.
if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but
That's good.
if hearing none, I'd make a motion to adopt the ordinance to amend the future land use map for the subject properties from agricultural to multi-use development as it pertains to Stitt Ranch
I'll
and
second the motion.
everything that's been listed here.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. This is a hearing of the public. So if anyone in the room would like to speak to this at this time. Seeing none. Anyone on the phone would like to speak to this at this time?
Ms. Emmons, do you need me to say more with regards to the 1,918 acres?
No, sir.
Okay, we're good?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any more further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Moving on to the next one, Ms. Embledge, same thing.
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve CPA 20-0004, adopt the comprehensive plan map amendment to amend the future land use classification on the subject property from agricultural to multi-use development as it pertains to the project owned by the Hilliards.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle. Again, this is a hearing of the public. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak to this? Seeing none. Anyone on the phone that would like to speak to this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
This next agenda item is another adoption hearing for, it's a text amendment to the Hendry County Comprehensive Plan for the Southwest Hendry Sector Plan, where we revised the text in the comp plan that would allow for single-family residences to be built without a detailed specific area plan. And we, again, you all heard this at the transmittal hearing. If you have any questions, I'm
Mr. Chair,
happy
I'd
to
make a
answer.
motion with respect to adopt the comprehensive plan amendment, allowing for 20 single-family homes to be constructed without approval of a detailed specific area plan. And that's as it relates to the Southwest Henry sector.
What do you mean without a detailed specific? What do you mean by that?
A detailed specific area plan is like a plan development on steroids. I'm sorry, I'm not very professional, but that's what it is.
Your interpreter's over there with the red tie.
Thank you. It's a very involved process that actually, it's like a PUD, but it's reviewed by the state reviewing agencies as well. And so, the way that the sector plan was originally written, if somebody, the state would not agree with us to allow a certain amount of single-family to be developed without a DSAP. So we acquiesced and went on to have it approved, went ahead and had this approved. And since then, we had gone back and forth to figure out how we could fix this. And since the state DEO has changed quite a bit since this started going through the process, they were agreeable to what we're asking here today. Okay?
We got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Harris. It's also a hearing of the public. Anyone like to speak to this at this time? Anyone on the phone that would like to address this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Gonna bring us to staff reports, Ms. Davis.
Yes, sir. Before you, earlier today, I emailed you two affidavits, a business affidavit and an individual assistance affidavit, as well as an ILA for our governmental entities for the Hendry Cares. So we're asking for your approval of the language in those affidavits so we can start getting the approvals out to our constituents on their applications. These affidavits will be attached to their approval email, if you will. Once it's approved, they'll have to have them notarized, send them back, and then upon receiving those affidavits with the approved application, we'll be submitting for funds to be dispersed to them. Also with the ILA, Mark can talk about it in a little bit more detail, but we do have a little bit of tweaking that language from what was sent out to you earlier today. So we asked that subject to county attorney approval, and he can go over what those changes are.
So yeah, the third thing she talked about, the interlocal agreement. So for the local or the governmental entities that we're going to provide CARES Act grant funding to, we're requiring a written agreement, for the funding. So we got them on the hook to pay us back if it turns out they're not eligible, later. So what you have in front of you is I prepared a form agreement. This is kind of a generic form agreement. Where this will be entered into with multiple. How many different governments are we potentially funding here?
Dozen, maybe?
Yeah, so there's like a dozen of these interlocal agreements that we need to be signing in the coming weeks. And instead of bringing you 12 agreements on multiple agendas, we're
Mr.
bringing
Chair.
you the form. And the
Chair.
form got changed a little bit.
Mark, did we have 12 local governments apply?
So we have.
Or we have potential of?
City, health department, each constitutional officer.
Okay.
Is considered an entity, if you will. Let's see, the health.
School
department.
board,
Well,
or they're
they-
separate to themselves?
They hadn't requested, but they could come back later.
Okay.
So maybe it's not quite a dozen,
I think
but
they're doing theirs on their own.
the school board, yes, sir, yeah. But we did reach out to them and the same
What about
thing-
like 298s and stuff like that? Are they?
So we discussed that earlier, and so they are not part of the plan. So that we have Central County, I think, and Port LaBelle or whatever, and they're not part of that.
Who decreed that? You all, or they did? Or the state? The reason why I ask is they're gonna, so.
It's got to be coronavirus-related losses.
Okay.
Impacts, so I don't know how much
Okay.
of those impacts they're going to have, but.
Okay.
I mean, we can reach out to them and see if they have those
No,
impacts. We just talked about it today
yes,
because
ma'am.
we acknowledged that those two specific entities were not part of
Okay.
who we communicated with.
So y'all are setting up, so for
Yeah.
example, you have a document set up right now so that when the city of LaBelle and the city of Clewiston come to participate, we're ready to say, let's exercise this, let's all be on the same page,
Right,
literally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and so you were emailed the form, and then just, this is an evolving task for us, it's all new, and so I just was thinking about it more, and so I thought of some more language, and that's the red language you see there,
Okay.
that kind of makes it clear to them, you had a project or projects, and it's attached, and this is what we think you're gonna do with the money, and, but if it turns, and we think preliminarily that it's fits under the CARES Act, but at the end of the day, it all needs to really, the documentation needs to support that it really does meet all the criteria, and they need to refund to us if it turns out that it's not coverable, because we gotta refund the state if it's not allowed.
Sure.
So you're being asked to approve the form of an agreement, to allow the chairman to sign these as we get them together, and we're not gonna put them on a future agenda. You're
Gotcha.
approving that now to move forward. And also, just to be clear, although I made some revisions here, there's gonna be some tweaks here and there, and I just asked that your approval be
Pending attorney
agreements with the wording as approved by me, that the chairman can sign those with each of these governments.
Do you want a motion for each one of those individually, or do you want to?
Can we just-
The three of those together, the two affidavits and the ILA together, authorizing us to move forward.
I so move the motion.
I'll second that motion, and just with the discussion point of Mark, I hope as it is essentially fluid, you'll just try to update us to the best of your ability, but understanding, that, you're gonna have to spend on a dime sometimes, I'm sure. And, I'm not gonna give previous examples of where we monumentally dropped the ball, but I will say that as it relates to some of the some of the details that I've seen you have to drill in on, Mark, you know, I think this is exactly what, this is your wheelhouse, so looking forward to it.
How are you coming with the 25%?
So, right now, we received 115 business applications. And
115 people, businesses.
Business,
Application.
and 105 individual applications. I sent you all a link, I don't remember when it was, if it was yesterday or last
Monday,
week.
yesterday.
Okay. And it's basically a live link. We received almost 670 phone calls on our hotline to date as well, taking questions and answering different questions. So
They can still apply.
yes, sir. And so once these are approved, I suspect, I'm hoping tomorrow, Ian is here somewhere, there he is. And him and Tammy have really, and Ryan and IT, they have just done so much work. I just can't say enough of it. It's all electronic, and so it all goes into a certain place where all their information is safe, because there's a lot of, information that people are providing, and so they've done such a good job. And so it's all electronic. And so once we get this approved, it will start sending out if they need more information on their application, or if their application has been approved, or if their application has been denied, and that kind of thing. So that's all gonna start coming out, hopefully starting tomorrow.
So when you approve it, you can put $1 aside,
Yes, sir.
and then you gotta limit it.
Yes, so depending on their income qualification, that's all outlined as far as the
Because it looks
guidelines.
like you're gonna run out of money.
So it depends on how many of these applications are approved, and then depending on if it's approved,
need.
what their specific circumstances were. So you can do some quick math, and you could say worst case scenario, but it may or may not look like that. So
Okay.
we'll keep you well updated as we start approving, denying, asking for more information.
That's awesome.
We'll share that information with
That's
you.
awesome. 2 weeks ago this night, we were worried about getting the message out, and there's 220 completed applicants sitting there 2 weeks later. And counting every day, so.
Are you happy with that number, Miss, or are you surprised? What are your thoughts? I don't think you're happy.
Well, so I think Emily's done a really good job with getting the information out. Also, I think I sent you some of what we've done. There's gonna be information that goes out in all the trim notices, also from the property appraiser. And she's done an update as to all the different mediums that she has used, and is continuing to use. The thing with the individual application, and I think everyone's aware of this, but there has to be a change in income for you to be qualified. So, for example, if someone is retired before COVID, they're still retired during COVID, there's not been a change, they're not gonna qualify. If someone was on unemployment prior to COVID, they're still on unemployment. There wasn't a change,
They actually got more money.
they don't qualify. But if someone was employed, had a reduction in hours, lost their job, or laid off, or a reduction in hours, there's a change, therefore they qualify. Someone could also be semi-retired, they get Social Security, or they get a retirement check, but they also work to be able to make ends meet, and there was a change, they would potentially qualify. So when you look at it that way, from an individual perspective, I don't know.
So clearly, just so I'm understanding it, and I don't mean to make it too simple, but I used to eat brunch all the time at Beef O'Grady's. They don't have brunch anymore. They don't have breakfast anymore. So that's a shift of servers, a shift of cooks, of bus people, all those people. Those are people that are 100% qualified for that. They're going to probably be successful in that applicant process.
They should be. There shouldn't be any reason why they wouldn't be.
Yeah. And so on and so forth. As the service industries, they got rocked in Hendry County. When you look at the numbers, though, Jennifer, does it look like they would experience any kind of recovery? Is it 25% of what they would get on $1, or what does it look like to you?
I don't know at this time.
It'd be really hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard. We just don't have that information drilled down.
Because even with the people we was trying to help, they might have was still getting a check when COVID first came out, and then all of a sudden the check stopped. So at first it wasn't a change, but probably maybe April or May it was. So then that qualifies them. Or it's like she said, somebody, because the ones that called me, they was on unemployment, they didn't qualify.
because they receiving their unemployment now. And they change was corrected, so they don't qualify.
Gotcha. So I know there was I know a ton of people personally that were laid off that did not file for unemployment, and I do not know if any of them have actually applied.
Now, if they were laid off and they filed for unemployment, and if they're getting unemployment,
They won't qualify.
they may or may not, they may still qualify.
Gotcha.
Because there was a change. It probably depends on their specific circumstances,
Traditional
when it
dollar
kicked
amount.
in, when it, what month it was, and what mortgage or rent payment is late and things like that. So it's all about the change in circumstance.
Have you or Emily been on WAFC to talk about this?
I believe they have, I haven't personally, but I believe that they have aired some things. I'll send you, I had her send me earlier today an update on all the different things that has been done and is ongoing, and so I think you'll appreciate that. She is online right now, if you have any questions for her. She's prepared to discuss that.
I seen it
with
online.
you.
I seen it either on Wink News or Fox News. They had
Yeah,
the same
it
thing.
was on Week
Yeah.
News,
Right,
NBC2.
right. So it's getting out there.
Yes, sir.
There's a bunch of people commented about the Wink and Fox.
Our four largest employers, correct me if I'm wrong, so we have US Sugar, we have the hospital, we have the county, and we have the school system. Of those four, only US Sugar experienced layoffs, or did they? Or were they listed in essential and never laid people off due to COVID?
I don't know that they laid people.
I'm not aware.
The county and the hospital probably doubled down, right?
The county hasn't laid anyone off.
The school system,
I don't
Didn't
think they
lay
laid
nobody
anyone.
off.
nobody. What about bus drivers as it relates to the school system?
They're
No,
still,
I think they got paid.
they
I
got
don't-
paid,
Okay.
they
They all
got paid.
So. This is something that drives me nuts about our unemployment numbers, because we had a bump. I think we fell to third or fourth, but when this all clears up, Jennifer, I want to talk with you and Keitha and Emily, and I want to challenge those specifics. I don't believe our unemployment numbers. So.
Well, they've never, it couldn't be right.
Well,
Mr.
it has
Chair.
to do with people that are actively seeking employment. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And so if someone is not actively seeking employment, they're not considered part of that unemployment percentage. So,
How do they find out? who
and
they
so,
are?
and so that is, I'm not an expert on that, but I think that is where the question lies, and maybe where the issue lies with our numbers in Hendry County, is that definition of what that looks
Yeah,
like.
that couldn't be right.
And Commissioner Turner, and to clarify, you're saying you're feeling the frustration of what you're perceiving and may very well be low numbers, and then we have such a high unemployment, but I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head though when you said our four largest employees, to our knowledge, none of them laid anyone off.
They probably had it.
And so the big kicker is, what change did you have? What change did you have in income due to COVID, being laid off, cut back hours? And so, they're there, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but,
One of the things off at the teacher aides, the aides was one that I don't think that they accommodated them.
yeah, no, the parents,
Some of the,
the
the
subs,
aides,
the
yeah, the
substitutes
subs,
probably was
that's
the
what I mean,
only
the
ones that
subs.
didn't.
that's, I mean.
'Cause
the
they're
subs,
hourly,
Yeah.
they're not considered employees, they're just an hourly,
And I'm not sure about the food service because they're contract.
Well, and
Yeah.
so they were essential,
Considered essential.
and so farming still
Now
continues.
they did have talking with farmers,
Mhm.
Yeah.
obviously supply chain issues happen.
Right.
You can look at it, it's kind of odd, because if you look at Publix, they sold $1 billion more than what they had done during the same calendar time frame. $1 billion with
We
a
all
B,
did.
and that's because people were essentially cooped up and eating and packing away. But now, how does that roll out? And then, we all saw the hyperbole around milk being dumped in Okeechobee County, and, the cattle market taking a dip, and some of those things. So, but yet boxed beef went through the roof, so, and cow beef's on, that commodity's on escalating right now as well. But the point I'm making as it relates specifically to unemployment is I don't trust our figures. I think that it's a bad number, and I think the people that do that are lazy. And I think that they just check the same boxes every month, and then they send it into the state, and the state says, yep, that's right, Henry County's been the perennial highest unemployment percentage county in the state forever, it stays that way, good job.
Keep them there.
Yeah, and so that's it, and I don't trust it, so I'd love to drill in
The
on it.
migrants coming in and out don't have anything to do with it.
They do have a seasonally adjusted number, and that is taken into consideration.
It is, and when you look at that, it doesn't add up either, you know,
No,
doesn't make
because when
sense.
they leave, they're not unemployed.
Yeah, but that's why I think we should have a higher spike than what we do, and it doesn't make any sense, or there should be a significant decrease, and it doesn't happen, so. Neither here nor there.
You know, with all that being said, you know, you could look at this in several different ways. The one aspect is that's quite a few numbers in 2 weeks, but it should be a lot higher, at least people inquiring about it, you would think, if there was that many affected. And then the other side of that, like I was saying in the beginning, I was curious if that 25% is gonna be enough. And if we're thinking now with the low numbers that we do have, if we're gonna blow that 25 out, then, so that's just, you know, all that being said, we just gotta be mindful of that as well. It's been communicated a lot, I've seen it on about any kind of social media that you can put it on, everyone's pushed it out. I know Emily's done a great job getting that. She's emailed every one of your ministries, have it on their doors, and they put it out there in their greetings. And so, I mean, we're getting the word out there, and that was one of my concerns. Got it out to, you know, Wheeler Estates and Felton, those areas are, you know, kind of by themselves, Monterey, a couple places. But I would have really thought that if we actually had that information, you'd have probably got blown up on calls. You'd had to say, okay, well, you really don't qualify, but this is the situation, so only 200 calls really isn't that much.
No, 670 calls.
670 total, okay,
Yeah.
that's a
But
better
200,
number. I
but
was worried
220
when you said
applicants,
200.
and that's still
200, yeah.
significant.
Completed applicants, yeah.
A couple of them just couldn't satisfy.
So now we just gotta make sure we got enough money to give them all, or we gotta take away the floor or something from somewhere. Sidewalk.
We waiting on you, Ms. Mark.
Oh, thank you.
We're waiting on you, we're ready for you now.
You guys are killing me. All right, so this next agenda item is a topic that came up in one of the board meetings in the past. And what the intent of this is to, one, provide you with what we have on our books regarding contractor licensing for excavation and land clearing, and also what we have on the books for permits that are required, which include excavation and also land clearing. But there's an exception for the permit, and that is for agricultural uses and clearing required for housing pads and development that have been approved through a site development plan, which is typically a commercial type use and/or a subdivision. So the information here, I'm not quite sure what the issue was that was brought up at the meeting, but we wanted to make sure you understood what we have on our books, and then have a discussion about what you would like to see changed. For example, an option might be that as far as the contractor licensing requirement, that can be modified, or as Mark had mentioned at one point, it could be deleted. But I would want to make sure that we speak with the contractor licensing board regarding any changes to our licensing requirements. And the other potential change could be regarding the permits, and to further clarify what it really means for the exceptions for the agricultural uses and the other items, because there were some questions that came up, would it apply to, and I'm going to use your example, somebody that is on an ag property that clears to put a fence line, for a fence line. We wouldn't expect that to be a permit. We wouldn't expect that to be require a contractor licensing. But on our books, it sounds like it would require licensing, and it sounds like it could potentially, somebody would say it would need a permit. It's not something that we've been practicing. It's not, happening. So, anyway, I wanted to just open it up for discussion to see if you had any suggestions or had any concerns about what we have on our books and and give staff direction on what we might want to
On the
revise.
first page, where'd you come up with the 4 years experience? On the first
That's
page?
been on our books, and that's typical for our specialty licenses.
So if somebody comes in with 3 years?
Yeah.
then
Right, that's the requirement, is 4 years.
I don't understand that.
None of them are getting it anyway.
Pardon me?
None of them are getting the permit anyway.
Well, we
Right.
have a number of folks in the county that have that contractor license, that particular specialty license,
Okay.
and that are doing business under that license.
Do you know if they're mainly commercial? Are they doing like commercial lots and?
Well, it's typical that a contractor is gonna be somebody that you hire and pay them. It's not your
Okay.
cousin that you don't
That's right.
pay or you give them dinner to clear or mow or something like that. So yes, it's a commercial operation.
So how would you define it then? Would you define it then by, well, but we have to be careful. I was gonna ask you for your recommendation. What do you see being the most workable, feasible, common sense approach for Hendry County? But it's hard to say just doing it for pay, because if I'm building a fence for pay, then by that law, then I would have to have it to use my rate to clean that fence line.
Right, I mean, if your business is to conduct this activity of either clearing or excavation, and it's
Could you do it just exempt the ag work perhaps?
under the licensing?
Yes, ma'am. Or
Oh.
or the permit requirement. I mean, you don't have to have a permit
Well,
or have a license for it.
Right, well, the permit for the ag, it's already exempt.
It's exempt now.
Exempt now, but we would clarify exactly what that is, because again, what the example that I provided earlier, there's just gray, and if we could, eliminate some of the gray, we would do that with adding language and.
But
and
the
that.
license right now is not exempt for ag,
Right.
to your question. So right now, a permit is exempt because it's ag and it's protected under state law and
Right.
our local ordinances, but the license is not, technically speaking. So if someone wants to clear on an ag property, technically, according to our books right now, they have to have a excavation license.
Yeah.
And so that
Right.
was your discussion,
But
way back whenever you all talked about it. We
Yeah.
wanted to bring it back to you.
but I don't think we need a license for farming.
Well, okay, for the ag aspect of it. Right, okay.
And I wouldn't think they'd come in to ask for one. They'd just go on and clear it.
Well, I agree with you. I know
Yeah.
that's been going on for years, and it's not,
No use bothering it then.
Well, the problem right now is what you have a lot of contractors that are getting upset because people are doing work. They'll tell you, I was told the other day, I spent 2 years getting my license, and I went through all the hoops to do that, and this person's doing the same thing I'm doing, and it didn't cost them a penny, so.
I'm getting the opposite argument. I'm being told, I got hired by X person to go clear, is Monterey 1.25 acre, or is it?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and then Pioneer's 2.5s, right, or 2.25. But anyway, they're saying, I'm going out here to clear a lot that's covered with palmettos and holly trees, or whatever it may be, it's irrelevant. And the county's saying, I can't do that because I don't have my license. And they said, I just bought a skid steer, I got a 3/4 ton truck, and I'm taking stuff off so that somebody can put a house on this property or a trailer on this property. Why do I have to have a license? I said, heck, I don't know. Let me find out.
Well, that's the other side of it. I'm getting the
Yeah.
same
Right.
thing. I'll have people telling me I have a license so I can go do that, and I already have the truck and everything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got everybody buying it now, and they're doing it, they're not doing it, they didn't have to get the license I did.
Yes, sir.
So it's not just that, it's other things as well, but, to me, and my biggest question was, we're talking about personal property and different people doing stuff on your own property. I mean, I think we're, in some aspects, I think we're a little permit heavy. Permit for this, permit for that, permit for that, permit to park your car over there, permit to put your truck over there. I mean, I don't wanna get in a situation to where we're like Cape Coral, we got a permit for this, permit for that, permit for this. The ag, I understand the ag, so if we're talking about ag and someone's gonna put a pole barn up, they never had to have a permit for that. Now, do they have to have a permit now, according to our books now?
no, the only thing that's been on our books is that they would need a permit for staff to confirm they meet the setbacks, and that's the only thing. It's not for the building, it's simply for the structure meeting setbacks.
No, this is on a legitimate ag operation. Is that what you're saying, Ms. Emily?
Um,
Or are we talking like a pole barn anywhere?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of asking that question, the second part of that.
I'm asking.
Okay, we're gonna check to see if they meet the setbacks. On the other side of that, I believe I read a year or so ago was getting a permit, and you're requiring a survey to approve. Now, a survey, somebody's gonna cost a lot of money to get a survey, then they gotta pull a permit. I don't agree with the survey part of it.
For what,
What application?
So,
What
well,
application?
Pole barn, set in a shed, I mean, anything, really. I mean, when
Well-
I had a shed set at my house probably 5 years ago.
uh-huh,
I had to get a survey
right?
to put a shed in my yard. And I've lived there for 30 years, so I pretty much know where property lines are.
I did too.
So, but I
Okay.
gotta pay a surveyor to come in and tell me
Right.
where property lines are so I can set a shed down. I just don't agree with that.
This is such a wonderful discussion. I love
Well,
this.
then let me give you the reasons why we have had problems with
Oh, I've
the
seen it, trust me,
situation.
I get it.
We have people that are putting fences in right-of-ways or drainage easements.
Pioneer, they hammered us. I know they had at least 3 fences I can think of. I can see them right now. And there's one up to this day on Kanawha. There's a green fence that goes across a right-of-way of the county. And Nicole Tyrell wants to punch me in the throat sometimes when she thinks about it, I guarantee you.
So is it agriculture fence?
No, it's
No.
not agriculture
Okay, so
fence.
there's a difference.
That's a different, that's a different animal.
There's a difference of
Right.
agriculture versus residential fencing and permitting.
I get the residential fencing, I get that, but you gotta be with someone to put inside your property line, or, I get all that, I understand that, but. like
Well,
I
hold on
said,
though. I want to hear your devil's advocate comment because we have to do that, Ms. Emblers. And I'm dying to give a couple of retorts to what he's talking about because I don't want to look like Cape Coral Wellington either. But at the same time, I can't drive down Ridgeville Road or any of the other named streets out there in the heaviest populated borough that I have policy over and feel confident about a sod truck coming in and parking on the right of way
oh, I get it.
and completely destroying, a road that's that thick. And doing the same thing on Mid-State Loop and doing the same thing, on Tropical and so on and so forth. It just, and, I don't know where we draw the line at, but I know this, that's not legal, And you can sit here and say all day long, well, that's just a good, hard-working American trying to get us, okay, that's fine. You got 5 of those trucks, sir, out there, and it's looking mighty similar to you're doing a mechanic operation. Or you got 3 of them, and I think that you may be getting paid to park some vehicles on your road. I don't know. But there's a whole bunch of smelly stuff going on. None of it smells wonderful. And I know a lot of people that have worked really hard to make that next level so that they have a truly zoned commercial property. And it goes back to the point you're making. Why did I go through all of this effort to get my license and do it properly whenever the county's just going to come around and let them do what they want to do out of their backyard?
Yeah, and.
So Ms. Embledge, hammer on us a little
No,
bit.
to piggyback here real quick on yours.
Yeah.
The county has codes that place to where you can't park commercial vehicles in residential areas in some places, and that happens.
Yep.
I mean, Lord, don't go down Case Road.
Yep.
Stay away from there. But, I just got this situation last week.
Yes,
One
sir.
of our roads, we got gentlemen's parking about 6 or 8 sod trucks in there. They're
Yes,
sod
sir.
trucks.
Yep.
They don't belong there. I'm not talking about that at all. I agree with that. I mean, trust me, I agree with that. The gentleman that's got the big bus business down there. I'm not disputing that at all.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if I want to put a shed or a barn up on my property, I shouldn't have to pay $5,000 for a survey to do it.
So Ms. Embledge, let's do it with one of them at a time. $5,000 survey on a 2.5 acre lot, pole barn that's going up.
Yep.
I remember code enforcement came by Dole and Cricket's house and said, hey, you can't put that little red brick building up right there. You gotta go pull a permit. We poured a concrete pad, we put a little drain field in, we did all this. They said, what is that? I said, are you building a little mother-in-law suite or something? Is Carson gonna live there? I said, no, it's actually a doghouse. Dole literally has the nicest doghouse east of the Mississippi, okay? It's ridiculous. And they didn't believe us. They came out and they were like, they really do have 5 dogs that live in that thing. It's gorgeous. But that didn't have to have a permit. And I remember thinking, why does that not have to have a permit? Simply because for dogs, it has the same impact as if it were a pole barn, and I think a pole barn did have to get a
Right.
permit. So I'm gonna shut up for a little
Okay,
while.
well, I don't have an issue with the pole barn or, what is it that you're gonna put in, sir?
A metal garage, metal
Okay.
shed.
A shed, yes. on your bazillion acres that are zoned ag and land use is ag. I don't have a problem with that, and I don't, I think that that's something that we can change in our code, that it doesn't need to happen. Getting back to, if it's ag, then we should be looking at making it clearer on what we require and don't require. And I think that some of the things that have been required in the past are probably more than what we need.
Okay, hold on, time out. Let me play devil's advocate to this. You don't live on a bazillion acres on ag. You don't live on 5 acres. You don't live on 25 acres. You live in a single residential lot that is zoned RG3M in regional subdivision.
Yes.
And you want to put your pole barn on your, what size is that, Miss McDade? I mean, Miss.
It's a third of an acre.
It's a
I think.
third of an acre. You want to put it up there. What's that process?
You have to come in for a permit.
He doesn't want them to have to get a permit.
No, that's residential.
No, I'm not talking about
Okay.
that.
We're talking
They're
about,
different
he's talking about
Okay.
ag.
Okay.
So, I-
We've had special exceptions to have carports put in because they were encroaching upon the.
Okay, well, hold on, Miss Image. I'm not putting in a pole barn now. I'm gonna put in just a carport. I'm gonna put
Same.
4 poles down, and I'm gonna park my truck underneath it.
same. You come in
I gotta
for
come in and
permit.
get a permit.
Yes, sir.
And if that goes up, code enforcement's gonna come and get them and say, sorry, you didn't have a permit.
Right.
And now we're gonna charge them twice for that permit?
Um,
I'm asking, and I'm not
Yeah.
mad.
No,
I think you need to sting them a wee bit, but I'm asking.
Right, right. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if we always require them to, they get the permit and, if they're charged twice, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer
Okay.
to that.
And that
I know
permit.
that there's some instances where we do charge them, additional, for getting, if their permit expired and they come back in, they have to.
They're putting in that
renew it.
carport. That carport has to have engineered plans and specs, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
And then
I'm asking all these questions. I don't have a single problem with anything that I just asked.
like all
I'm
the
very
sheds
encouraging
and
about it.
stuff, they talk about and pole barns at 15 feet from the line, correct?
it depends on what zoning district you're in, depends on what your setback would be.
Well, they told me 15 feet everywhere
No, mine's 25.
No.
for a shed, like
Okay.
he's talking about.
Well, that's not correct, sir.
So what is it?
It depends on what zoning district you're in, because it could be 15 feet, 10 feet, 25, or 40.
I know the city's 15 feet.
Cool.
Okay?
And then if you get 14, you can ask for a special exception.
Yeah, you can apply for that. We've seen that in the past. I mean, they had to build a big motor home before you go across the bridge, they built a big motor home addition out there for the park the bus under. I think it might have been before you. It was a big process, and they had to go through a big process to get the setbacks changed. I mean, it's beautiful. The home's beautiful, so that is not even what I'm talking about.
Right, right.
If I lived in a subdivision, if I lived where people were right on top of me, I don't want them putting stuff right on top of me either. I get it.
Right.
But when you live out in the middle of nowhere, you live there for a reason, and you have ag property for a reason. So, I mean, let me give you this scenario. 15 acres. You want to dig dirt in the back, put it up in your yard to fill your dirt up. You got to have a license and a permit?
That's the way the books read.
Right.
So I just can't take a
Not
tractor
a
back there and dig a
Oh,
hole. move
not-
dirt across.
Not a license, but not a permit, right? Because it's a site pad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's not a
site
site
pad.
pad. I
No,
just
no,
said
no,
to fill
no.
the yard up.
He's
If
just
it-
gonna fill in some
Oh.
holes in his yard, or he's gonna build him a little road.
That's
Oh.
all. I'm doing it myself with a tracker, but I
No.
gotta pay somebody with a license to do it or what?
No, all right, so
And he's not Commissioner Wills.
the scenario,
John
Yeah, just
all right,
anybody. yeah.
Smithering.
let me clarify your scenario, because I
Please,
thought
yes.
what I first heard you say is that they dig a pond, take the dirt, and they're gonna put it up front.
In their
to-
yard.
In their yard to fill it, and I thought you were saying that for a residence.
No, ma'am,
No,
just
ma'am.
to fill the
Okay.
yard up, that's all it is. They're gonna dig a well, it can be a cow well.
Yeah, well, let me just say that, that shouldn't be a problem, but let me tell you, we had a problem with, FEMA came through and saw that somebody cleared their property on Henry Isles Boulevard. And because they were in a floodplain, we got tagged with not permitting them or not requiring a permit and making sure that when they cleared, that they didn't impact the floodplain.
Well, we just went through that process, you and I, for what, a year now?
Which one?
Piece of property down there that. the
Oh,
gentleman was
Luna?
clearing.
Yeah,
So we went through the whole
Right.
thing with that. But that's
But-
ag, so I get it.
right.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, same thing, devil's advocate. We say here tonight, we say you gotta do this, this, and this. Now, next week, your phone's gonna ring off the hook and say, Commissioner Turner, I was wanting to dig a hole in my back pasture back here and bring some dirt up my yard.
Code
but I gotta
enforcement
pay a
rolled
$5
up
permit."
with lights and citation books and said,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm just trying to cover all of our bases here.
Yeah.
This is the only
I
time we
want
can
the
talk to
lights.
each other about it, so I'm trying to get everybody's opinion here.
This is phenomenal.
Where we're, what are we actually
Yes.
gonna do with it? Where are we gonna land at?
uh-huh.
So we
I know people don't like to have long meetings, but we only meet twice a month. We gotta
So
get
what
these
I'm
things
hearing
figured out.
is, what I'm hearing you say, Ms. Emlich, a little bit scary. You said it shouldn't be, by the way. You didn't say it's not or it is. You said it shouldn't be. But that's also because we're hitting you just out of the clear blue sky with this scenario. But you don't think that we have to have that person pull a permit to dig said cow well or, move dirt from this part of their yard to that part of their yard? They're 100% not selling anything. They're 100% not gonna do anything with it to
Right.
put another structure on that.
Right.
They're just gonna, they got good sand over there. They're gonna make their pond that's already in existence a little bit deeper.
Uh-huh.
And they're gonna put it in a hole that's in their driveway already.
Right.
Is that?
I think that's reasonable without having to do permits and contractor licensing and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But they
And
can't sell it.
The,
Well, you don't mind it.
I
don't-
I
I
brought
don't
up
think
the,
so. I think that
What?
even, this quickly leaves the county and quickly gets into.
South Florida Water Management District?
Well, South Florida, depending on where you are.
Uh-huh.
Water
Yes.
management, DEP,
You see 139
soil,
basin.
soil and water conservation permitting, and so there's an enormous amount of things that have to happen. So I don't want anyone to think that
Yeah.
we are saying that that's okay, because I believe there's multiple layers outside of us.
yes,
That regulates the mining, dredging, moving on said property, my farm, your farm.
I think
or
you're
anything.
correct, but the reality is, though, as Commissioner Wills and I are speaking specifically to, is a Henry County code enforcement person gonna come out there and shut said operation down and have a legitimate stand? Or are we going to, before they even begin, say you have to pull permit and or pay us X to start? And I think the answer is no, as it relates to the scenario that he presented.
And I can't speak to this as intelligently as I would like to, but there are certain regulations from a state perspective, from an agricultural perspective, that we cannot regulate over and above what the state regulates. So if whatever they're doing, it triggers something from South Florida or something like that, then it does, and that's their requirement. But we cannot require.
More.
And Mark's the attorney, and he can correct me, and we can get into that and look at that at a future date, this specific language. But I'm very sensitive to that, as county administrator with the large agricultural, that is our number one economic driver. And so we don't need, from a county perspective, to be doing more than what, we're supposed to be doing. And we need to be realistic of reality of what goes on and use common sense. And so right now, on the books for excavating, we're requiring some things for licensing that we probably have no intention of ever enforcing, but we all may not be here one day, and so it would be nice to be able to change the language so the language is consistent with what we're doing for the future, and to make sure that there's no question.
Well, I would love to hear a recommendation then from your team that protects everything, what you just said and what you've heard from the board. I think they're in cohort with each other.